Hi, it's Grandpa Butler. Welcome. We're going to do a Monet-like painting today, watercolor. Two women on a cliff overlooking the ocean with some boats on it. Now, as typical, since mid 2021, our highlighted figures are going to be done in permanent ink, and then we'll kind of color and emphasize the things around them, and then do the background. Most recently, we've spent more time on background elements, and so you can see I've spent a little time doing the sky, periwinkle blue, sky blue, and ultramarine touches here and there. So we'll start by lighting those up. Then the hillside will be, flowers will be this orange, yellow, kind of purple and reddish colors. We'll come back at the last and do the green. So we want to emphasize those. We want to do the colors before we do the grasses, so and get them the crayon pigment down, get them wetted, let them dry before we do the grasses, so we keep that brightness of those colors in there. We're going to put some of this beautiful color here into these young women's dresses. The ocean, besides some sky colors, will have this blue-green, and probably sneak a red or two into the women's dresses. For the cliffs here, we're going to use Prussian blue and crimson colors, and around the edge of the cliffs, we're going to use this ochre yellow here. So that's it. Let's start out with the sky then. And let's hope Grandpa remembers what colors to go where and gets them there on time. At the very end throughout, we're going to come back and put some white touches with this gouache painting here. So we'll dip our brush here in our water here and get our pigment here. Since this is a Monet kind of painting, what we want to do is we're not going to be so concerned about the purity and the continuity of colors. They can be different splotches of colors, which is something I admire in Monet's and the Impressionist work general, is their willingness to experiment here. Well, that's certainly what we're doing with our watercolor painting here. So we'll go around here, kind of dissolve some pigment around our young women on the cliff, as well as the boats, as well as the cliffs up here. And by now, this is going to chew up some time, as it always does. The more details I show. So we're showing virtually everything that we do in this video in real time. So let's do flowers here. I think we'd like to put some red flowers over here by the edge of the cliffs. So those are red flowers, the little red flowers in here. And a bunch coming down here in bunches, some along the edge of this cliff here, and then here and there a few. Okay, so we've got some of our red flowers in. Now let's put, I guess we could touch them up. Before we do that, let's just put some orange. And more especially along the edge of the cliff here, some orange colors, and coming down here, here and there in the field of flowers and color that's on top. And particularly we'll come down along here on the edge of that cliff. Now around the women, I'm going to emphasize them by putting some darker greens, more so than Monet did in his original here, yellows. yellows here, especially along the cliff, and here and there throughout, some up here, maybe one or two yellows in there, so the grass doesn't feel completely abandoned here when we get them in. So we got our yellows, and then these kind of darker purple colors, especially in a bunch down here below the women and over here. Grandpa is an amateur, and he's doing this to have fun and express himself. His watercolor crayons have some really interesting properties, and that's why we're kind of exploring them. So as promised, what we need to do, or cautioned rather, is we need to get our colors here splotched out so they can be, and the yellow is the lightest, so why don't I go through and splotch those out first, and the splotching takes a while. Sure, any sensible grandpa would do that off camera. Oops, too much water on there. We'll just leave that. So now let's start up here with the orange. Okay, settle down, Grandpa. Okay. Up here on the edge of the cliff, overlooking the sea. This is just the colors that Monet chose, which we are not following too closely, but we want to do somewhat here. Now while those colors kind of dry, maybe we can put our cliffs in and then come back when everything's completely dry, do the grass. So on the edge of the cliffs here, we have some dirt showing here and there. And where there's not dirt showing, there'll be some, yeah, a little bit in here. Let's have just the slightest bit in there. Okay, so there's the ochre color for those dirt. So for the cliffs, the structure of the cliffs, I'll do in red instead of a black or really dark brown. I'm using crimson and blue here. So that's going to be cliffs over there, cliffs here, cliffs along here. Okay, so those are part of the cliffs. And now what we'll do is we'll come down and do blue. I'm coloring not like we would in a coloring book, but I'm just trying to color as if I'm drawing it, because we're going to probably leave some pigment behind, and I want the traces of pigment to be part of the art, part of the shape of the object here. So the ochre colors here along the edges, and over here, and then the dark colors, the red and the blues here. You know, I think I intended for this to be another dark shaded area here. Okay. I don't want to run these colors completely together, so I'm dabbing a little bit more than maybe you want me to keep some of these the colors slightly differentiated for a kind of interesting look here. So we got the cliffs, the dark cliffs. I think we can do the grass here in a second. I want to, yeah, I'll do the grass. Okay, let's roll the grass colors into view here. Between the women, I want it to be a kind of a darkish green. So let me do that before I forget. Oh, that's kind of interesting, huh? Right around, and I should put some other hues in. So we're depicting the wind blowing on their dress and the sailboats out there. I want to depict the wind in the same direction. Again, I'm not coloring quite like you do in a coloring book. I'm coloring as if it's my art, right? And put a regular green in here, up and down, here and there, so we get a couple of different hues in there. Okay, so we got that grass in there and around the women. Since we're going to do the women, I guess do them last here. Let's light up this grass. So I'm not completely trying to get rid of the pigment. That's going to be part of the pictures you can see there. Okay. Looks like greens and lighter greens over in this corner here. So there's some greens up and down here and there. And I'm going to get a bunch of greens in here because this is like a grassy field right in here. And we're willing to do grassy fields more quickly in this video because we want to have fun doing details and maybe speed things up here, huh? And some grassy greens down here. I'm going to put some darker ones in too. Let's get some lighter ones here and there. You see some white. So this is in watercolors. This is sort of the detailed part here. So we're going to light these up and then put some darker colors in that green there. Okay. Okay, maybe a dark green down here to sort of anchor the corners of the picture, as it were. Okay. Well, let's see if we've got enough greens in there. We can do a final touch-up of greens, at least in this area right here where we're touching up now. But that can come later. It will come later. We'll let this kind of dry out. Now I'm trying to avoid covering up my bright colored flowers with my brush by hitting the light spaces between there. And so we'll come down here. We'll take some of the pigment that's still on our brush and we'll move it into the areas where there's not much. Where there's white, actually, as if we intended to do that all along. Okay, so there's the so that's not quite as variegated as the pictures in Monet, but we're not doing waters and we're not spending all day on it either, so forgive us. Those offenses. Please, Claude. Please, 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 please. Okay. Moreover, this is our way of expressing ourselves. Let's put a little bit of dark here and there, touching up a little area with this dark green here. Just for fun. Speaking of fun, let's come back and do some patches of dark green. And do them kind of on to show the slope of the hill, and kind of add some variety to our colors and the types of grass that are showing there. Maybe some more down here. Okay, getting closer, ever closer. Now I think what the next thing we'll do is we'll put in some sea, and rather than do all that coloring real time on the sea here, I'll go off camera for a minute and do the coloring, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so besides the grass here, you can see I've gone and off camera and kind of put color into the crayon color into where the ocean is here, and I'm going back and I'm just stroking horizontal. So if I drag pigment, I'm dragging it across and kind of a way that would reflect the way the waves move. So dark orange, blue, and then ultramarine blue. And then below the ultramarine blue, the very bottom here, I have put in some periwinkle. Okay. And there we go there. Now, some of the pigment here that's laid out, coming out horizontal, I'm not worried about. I'll just leave. It's part of the art. That's why when I put the crayons down, I draw them in rather than just blanket cover them in. So we're getting closer here. So we have the boats to do, and I don't know what color to make them. Why don't we do them with that crimson that we used on the boats themselves? Sails will be white. No one will be upset with that, right? And if you are, don't let me know. Okay. For the women, for their skin tones, I'll use a kind of pink here for that hand there that's on the cane, for that part of that face that's showing. And then maybe some periwinkle blue is going to be, they'll be in dresses that are mostly white, with a little bit of red in them maybe. The hats, would be typical French hats here. Red, we'll have this umbrella she's wearing to keep herself shaded. Chinese women on the mainland where I teach from time to time, young girls like to do that. Keep themselves beautiful. They are certainly don't need to do that, in my opinion, but we all do interesting things in our lives. Okay, there's the umbrella. How about the dress? Maybe a little bit of crimson in this dress here. Coming across here. How about some red in this dress here? Around the, whatever that's called, the waistline there. Okay. Okay, so let's, I'm going to use, got to remember not to put so much water on some of these things, but this is, every time we paint, there's always something new in our experiment here that we're doing. And that's true today as well. Okay. Grandpa's. One of the nice things about these crayons is when you have neuropathy like Grandpa, even then you can sort of have fun making things. So what I think we want to do here, I think we've done enough. I think we want to touch up some of the waves and things, and with some whites, and go around the boats. And but I think maybe we're done. So yeah, let's basically stop there. Thanks. So basically taking the tape off here, I mentioned touching up with white, and what I mean is, I thought I'd have to do that on sailboats, but I'm satisfied with them as they are. With the women as they are, but look here on the waves here. I see a little bit of dark pigment here. What I'm doing here is kind of aboving it. I'm creating a kind of picture of a crest of the wave here, which those get bigger as we get down further here. So just something Grandpa's trying out. And maybe you'd like to do that in your paintings too. Okay, well, Grandpa's getting silly right now. So you can see where there's these dark spots that are sort of vertical. Grandpa's just coming back with his little paintbrush and painting some white horizontal lines in them so they look more sea-like. Well, that's it. Thanks for joining us. Take care. Love you a lot.